So the S&P 500 just did something big. It blew past a major psychological barrier. But you know what? While all the headlines are celebrating, the real story, the one that actually matters, is happening behind the numbers. Let's get into it because this is way more interesting than just a milestone. And there it is, 7,000. It's a number that's been almost entirely fueled by what you could call an AI fever. But as Wall Street pops the champagne, a totally different story is starting to unfold. And it has nothing to do with software or code. It's about something much, much more tangible. And that really gets to the heart of what we're talking about today. Is this massive run-up a sign of real sustainable growth, or is it a warning light flickering on the dashboard? A sign that the whole system is starting to seriously overheat? To figure that out, we've got to follow the clues. And the very first one is hiding in plain sight. It's the real-world, physical price tag that comes attached to this whole AI revolution. You know, we have to start asking ourselves, now that AI is moving out of the purely digital world and becoming this massive physical operation, what's the actual cost? What's the tangible price we're all going to pay for this future? Look, this requires a huge shift in how we think about AI. It's not just some weightless code floating around in the cloud anymore. It's a massive industrial process, an absolute monster with a bottomless appetite for energy. And this is where it gets really interesting. This chart shows a huge disconnect. See, general inflation, the CPI, it's holding steady, right around 2.5%. But at the same time, the cost to actually power our AI future, they are going through the roof. Household electricity is up more than 6%, and raw material prices are absolutely surging. The market is finally waking up to a new reality. It's not about trading on digital promises anymore. It's about the very real, very high cost of running the machine. Okay, so let's zoom out for a second, because this isn't just about your wallet or a company's bottom line. Oh no. This is quickly becoming a global geopolitical game where just securing enough power is becoming a top national priority. And this leads us to this really important concept, energy sovereignty. In simple terms, it's the ability to control your own power, to keep the lights on without worrying about pressure from other countries. This idea, which was kind of a background issue for years, has suddenly become priority number one, and not just for governments, but for the biggest tech companies on Earth. And listen, don't make the mistake of thinking this is some far-off futuristic problem. No way. This is happening right now as we speak. We're seeing intelligence about secret nuclear expansions in China. We're seeing a huge US military shift back toward the Persian Gulf. And you've got tech giants like Microsoft and Google who are so desperate for power, they're just buying their own power plants. The race is officially on. So when you take all these pieces, the soaring costs, this crazy geopolitical scramble for power, and you put them all together, what do you get? Well, you get the core idea of this analysis. We can now reveal the critical choke point for all of AI's future growth. It's being called the physical bottleneck, and the thesis is pretty straightforward but absolutely critical. By 2026, the progress of AI won't be held back by code or algorithms. It's going to be limited by two very simple, very physical things: our ability to power it and our ability to wire it. If we can't solve for those, the entire AI revolution slams into a hard physical wall. Let's just break that down a little. To power it, AI needs a staggering amount of reliable, carbon-free energy that's on 24/7. When you look at the scale required, there's really only one solution: nuclear. And then to wire it, you have to physically connect all these new data centers and upgrade our grids. That takes a truly massive amount of conductive material. And the solution there? Good old-fashioned copper. Okay, so if we know the problem is this physical bottleneck, and we know the bottleneck is made of nuclear power and copper, well, the next question is pretty obvious, right? Who wins? Who is actually positioned to benefit from this? And that brings us to the payoff, identifying the potential silent winners of this whole new era. So the analysis suggests we should look past the usual suspects, the big software names we all know. Instead, it points to the companies that own the actual physical stuff. We're talking about companies like Constellation Energy, the biggest nuclear operator in the US, Freeport-McMoRan, a giant in copper mining, and Arm Holdings, which designs the super efficient chips that are critical for saving every last watt of power. And this slide breaks down exactly why these specific companies are so interesting, using what's called a politics, performance, and protectionism framework. So take a look at CEG. From a politics angle, it's a huge beneficiary of new energy security laws. Performance? its cash flow is projected to jump by 40%. And its protection, its moat, it owns the largest nuclear fleet in America, period. Then you've got FCX. Politically, its copper is seen as a strategic national asset, red gold. Its profits could explode as copper prices rise, and its protection? It has monopoly rights on some of the best mines in the world. And finally, there's ARM. It's politically neutral in the US-China chip war. Its performance is set to surge because of royalties from its new designs. In its moat, its incredible control over the chip standard itself. All right, let's bring this all home. Let's wrap this up and really nail down the core message because it really is a huge shift in perspective. You've probably heard that old saying, right? In a gold rush, sell shovels. Well, this slide is basically the 2026 version of that. The argument is that the real lasting value isn't going to be in all the flashy AI apps. It's going to be in the boring physical infrastructure, the copper wires and nuclear reactors that make it all possible. And that leads to the final and maybe the most important takeaway of all. The S&P hitting 7,000, honestly, that's just noise. Real lasting power in this new age comes from controlling the physical world. The power plants, the transmission lines, and the mines. The infrastructure is the empire. So I'm going to leave you with a question to chew on. As this new AI gold rush gets faster and crazier, where are you putting your attention? Are you watching the code, or are you watching the copper? Your answer to that might just tell you who the next giants are going to be.